So I got a 2021 Yamaha RMAX. I know this just says 2022, but at any rate, I got a rear crankcase oil seal leaking. It's basically between the the rear drive line comes out of the differential and goes forward into the crankcase, and that oil seal is leaking. And so I thought I'd try to walk through this, make a little video of how you go about replacing that. It's that part number 23 is the oil seal. Service department recommended I also have part number 22 on hand, because they say oftentimes you bend the circlip when you remove part number 19. And then they also says I should replace part number 18, which is a little rubber O-ring, while I'm in there. So we're going to go out to the machine and see how this works. Edit: you do not remove or need circlip number 22. You need to remove circlip number 21, the small one. And they advise to have one on hand in case you bend it, taking it out. So this machine only has 800 miles on it, so it's pretty disappointing that that seal's leaking. But so here's the rear diff. There's the drive shaft that goes in the crankcase right here, and you can see with the mirror it's leaking real bad right underneath that seal. So that seal right there is what's leaking. So that's what I'm going to replace. And massive overkill. Said I just need to take this, you get this heat shield out of the way, 110mm bolt. Maybe take these brake line clips loose and get that heat shield out of the way. And there's only 4 bolts to hold down the rear end, 2 on either side, and these 2 in the rear. And take those 4 bolts off, and apparently you just move that rear differential back towards the frame here, and that'll give you enough room to pull that drive line and have access to that seal. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, so just like Massive said, you just you take this brake line loose, 10mm bolt right here. You take a couple plastic clips loose, you just squeeze them on the back side, they'll push through, kind of get this brake line out of your way. And then I took the 4 bolts out of the rear diff. I just use a pry bar right here against the diff, and you know, kind of wiggled it around, and got that drive. It's hard to see in here. Got that drive shaft out. Drive shaft just comes right out. So here's the drive shaft. I put an arrow, making sure it goes forward, which looks like there's only one way to go anyway. But anyway, so that's out. Now I guess I got to get in here somehow and get a C-clip out of there, and so I can get to that seal and replace that seal. So that's what's next. So here's the parts. There's the seal. I guess that's basically I guess you might even call that the rear main seal. It's a rear crankcase seal. They said better have a snap ring on hand, because sometimes you bugger it up getting it out of there. And there's that O-ring that goes on that output shaft way back in there. So I'm going to replace all 3 of those. Okay, so I got the C-clip. There's a C-clip that goes right on that shaft right there, that little groove that holds this coupling on. It's kind of a bugger. You got to get your snap ring pliers in there. You got to contort your body, and it's a real bugger, but I don't know, it can be done. And then you can take this hub out, and now I got to figure out how to get that seal out. Alright, that wasn't too bad. I used a block of wood. I got my seal puller in there, and popped that sucker out. It wasn't too bad. Okay, so the service department says when I'm in here, there's also an O-ring on that shaft. holding the mirror. I don't know if you can see it. There's a little black O-ring back in there on that shaft, that output shaft. It says you just will replace that while you're in there. So I'm going to. Okay, so this little hook tool is what I use to reach back in there and pull that O-ring, rubber O-ring out off that shaft, and I put the new one on. Just showing you what I use, this little hook tool. And then this is the new seal, and of course I cleaned up the surface, and then I oiled up the seal where the hub's going to ride on it right there. And oddly enough, this seal kind of has a rubber, it's rubber on the outside. I literally pushed it in with my fingers. I mean, it was tough to do, but I didn't even need to tap it with a hammer or a great big socket. I could just literally push it all the way until it hit the lip, so this seal's all the way in, but I just used my fingers and my thumbs push as hard as I could. So, and then I cleaned up the coupling, and then put some grease, little grease on the threads and where the seal rides on the coupling, and coupling's gonna go in just like that. And that's all the way in. Now I gotta get that snap ring back in there. That's gonna be fun. All right, she's done. Got the seal back in. So like I said, you want to replace that rubber O-ring that's way back there in the shaft, and then there's the seal that was leaking. There's a snap ring that holds this hub on. When you put these rubber boots back on, there's a groove. There's a groove that this side goes in, and there's a groove that this back side goes in. So make sure they're in the groove. Front and rear, both boots, they need to be in the groove. Anyway, it's pretty easy. Remove this heat shield, these little brake line clips, pull the 4 diff bolts, slide the diff back, pull the drive line out, get your circlip out, get your hub out, get your seal out, replace the rubber O-ring, and kind of do it in reverse to put it all back together. It really didn't take very long, so hope that fixes it. And here's the tools I used. Seal puller. Definitely got to have a mirror, especially if you're a one-man show. It's hard to get the snap ring pliers back in there. You can't really see what you're doing. It's a big contortion to get back in there, but you can do it. Here's a little hook tool I used to get that rubber O-ring off that shaft. Anyway, that's how you replace the rear crankcase seal on an RMAX 1000. Cheers.